Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host and keeper, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions DrFunctional.
Hello.
SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
And Serenity Star 13.
Hello.
Well, working backwards, Serenity, how was your day?
It was good.
It was okay?
Mm-hmm.
Another good day to be above ground in West Virginia.
There you go.
Yes. All right.
I heard you had fun laughing at uni with some misfortune with a pig.
Oh, I always have fun laughing at uni, but I died a lot. So that was to be expected.
Pig misfortune? What was the...
They were playing
7 Days to Die.
7 Days to Die, yeah.
And it's
okay.
a mod, and you can be attacked by animals and all this kind of stuff, more so than normal.
Man, I'm so out of touch. Every now and then I fire up Minecraft, and it's like, I'm a gamer. You know, that's
Well,
the extent of it.
Solitaire.
Solitaire, yeah.
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper.
Yeah.
Really
Hardcore gamer.
good stuff.
Mahjong.
Well, I used to play video games and stuff. Now I'm an adult with things that I have to do, so it cuts into my time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday I'll retire and I'll become like a hardcore competitive gamer. That'll be fun.
The
Go in there
Skyrim
with
grandma. You can be
Go
like
in
the
there
Skyrim grandma.
with my 70-year-old reflexes. That'll be awesome.
Hey, there's the Skyrim grandma who does a lot of stuff on Twitch and stuff like that. So you
really?
can do it.
Okay.
She still gets thousands of concurrent views.
Yeah, Google her. There's a documentary on her. She's really interesting.
Super popular, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
she's really cool.
And well, that's the thing, Serenity. She's an interesting woman. She's not just, your typical gamer person online. She's actually got charisma, and she's kind of funny, and she's got that at times that granny innocence.
Yeah.
That you're just kind of like, this is so cute. Like,
Okay.
Depending on how much Harry wants to talk about his private life, depends on how much you get people to watch him.
I don't have rats in my garage anymore, so I mean, really, content has been all downhill since Nigel died.
yeah.
That's a terrible way to look at it.
No, but I mean, I can't compete with it the life and death struggle of a small mammal. I mean,
From what chat says, I'm going to butcher your name, and I apologize. Coco Noe says her name's Shirley Curry. I forgot what her name was. And then Geode said she's supposed to be in the next Elder Scrolls game as an NPC.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So I just wanted to give chat a shout out.
Well, that reminds me, actually, I had an idea for content for a future show. We'll have to talk after the show tonight. Well, it's gamer related. That's what,
I kind of figured.
Yeah. Skep, how was your day?
I'm glad to have it over.
Your day is better over. You almost wish you were in Prospero's time zone, just so it could be over sooner.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just sick as a dog all morning. I mean, just misery. And I don't know what I did to deserve it. I just happened. It's been like a day-long bug. So I'm sitting here like, I'm feeling so much better. You kind of have that euphoria that you have when you've been feeling terrible, when you start feeling better. And I don't even like that. So anyway, I'm thoroughly dissatisfied, phlegmatic, and angry. It should be a great stream.
Well, let's just make it a very chill stream to the extent that it's possible. I'm not going to let myself get worked up. Functional, how are you doing today? You had a Star Trek scheme, right?
I'm feeling quite a bit like Skep here. Although, yeah, during the Star Trek stream, because I've been looking forward to this for a while, because we're covering Picard Season 2, which is actually not terrible compared to what else has been out since the end of the Next Generation era. So, like Voyager and DS9 and TNG and all that, and the associated movies. Once you get into the JJ verse, you're kind of like, oh god, this is disgusting. And then with Star Trek Discovery, it's like, this is so far removed from Star Trek, I don't know what it is, but it's crap. And then to come back to something you still have that spirit of the next gen DS9. Like it feels like Star Trek with this nice shiny new veneer on it. That's just like a feast for the eyes, because
it is.
The special effects, the actors, the new actors, and obviously the old ones too, because Stewart and John Delancey are just a treat when they're on screen together. Even though by themselves they're also wonderful, but together, chef's kiss.
It's electric. Yeah.
I keep hearing mixed things about Picard. I keep hearing
new people too are really good. The new crew, the new cast that surrounds Picard in 7 of 9 are actually really good actors and actresses that I'm actually invested in the characters and how they're portraying them. And I'm like, okay. Well, the thing is, Serenity is it is a bit of a mixed bag. There is season 1, depending on who you ask, because Hammer really liked season 1. But myself, BP, and Skep were like, season 1 was kind of crap. Wasn't really feeling it. There was too much of that. Remember this? The member berries thing? Remember this? Remember that?
Okay.
And this season, it's a lot more light-handed with the callbacks. There are still callbacks, but it's not like, hey, remember the Stargazer? It's more like
they're better done. Yeah, they're more subtle.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like how TNG treated the original series as opposed to what modern media has been pumping out with just member berries stuff.
Gotcha.
And so that got me, sort of really vitalized today. But the other last half of this day has just been awful on me, and I'm trying to
So the rule holds
keep
that
running.
you should always try to give stuff to the second season to see what happens, whether it's good or bad.
It's been like that with Trek for so long. It's kind of like these first seasons are kind of just treading water, and then they don't find their feet. Both the cast and the crew, they don't find their feet until the second season, and then it just takes off running, and you love it. The only thing I really have a problem with is that it's a serialized. It's not episodic, so it's just like one long story, and it's like, I kind of want the old Trek where you'd occasionally get 2 or 3 parters, but give me those small, self-contained things. You can still have a grander
overarching
like
storyline.
Voyager trying to get home. DS9, there's this big thing, these big events that are going on behind the scenes, but it always comes back to, okay, there's something going on today. It's like a day. They're always like the slice of life, day in the life of. But when something happens, obviously you don't want to just be bored to tears with, Neelix is cooking for an hour.
There's a new planet and there's a new thing for Riker to have sex with.
There you go.
Yeah, it's the way it goes.
Gotta put that leg up on the.
As far as the first season being bad, and then you got to save something for the sophomore season. If you were a little older, you probably wouldn't say that because it's really poorly in the past. Like, what tends to happen with these sci-fi things in particular is they'll make a first season and then they won't get the numbers that the producers want. Because of course the producers always want to have a hit. It's gotta be the new mega hit. Anything short of that means they're gonna tamper with it. And then they go in and they fuss with the DNA to make it sexier or grittier or darker or whatever. So you end up with, admittedly some of these are not good shows. You get Buck Rogers starring, Aaron Gray and Gil Gerard in an absolutely terrible show. First season, entertaining enough. Okay, entertaining enough for crap TV in the 1970s in the U.S. Second season, they somehow decided that the hot chick shouldn't really be in the show much anymore. So they just dress her conservatively and then have her just sort of be like in the corner of the control room in like 1/3 of the episodes, because that's good TV. So instead they go do these on location things where they're just like wandering around California pretending it's the future. It is terrible. I've never seen a show nosedive so much from first season to second season. And don't even get me started with Space 1999. That was another travesty, but that was because somebody from the original Star Trek who sucked. The other Gene, was it Gene? No, I forget which producer it was. But one of the producers from the original Star Trek who was not very good went in there and decided, hey, let's sex this up. Let's make it jazzy and exciting. And it just, the whole show just became really stupid.
It
It just
yeah.
I've seen this happen too many times, especially with Star Trek. I actually didn't mind the first episode or the first season of Enterprise.
Yeah, I liked
Um,
Enterprise.
I
The
thought
first
it was
season.
kind of thoughtful. I mean, I liked the opening music. I thought it was
Yeah.
it was a nice change of pace. You know, it's like it's retro futurism in a future not
Yeah.
really retro way. It was cool though. I liked it. And then the second season, it's like, well, you got to put a bit of rock guitar behind that in the opening, and it's like, okay, what am I watching now? So the
Yeah.
outfits are just a little tighter, and the guns are a little more powerful.
I just remember
It's
the
like,
one Vulcan chick
God.
whose outfit, she was too skinny and her outfit was too tight.
Oh yeah, what's her name?
Was it
Well,
though?
T'Pol played by. Oh yeah, I can't remember.
She
her
was
name.
too skinny,
Jolene Blalock.
Jolene
but she-
Blalock, yes.
but she was too skinny to
Blalock?
get away with that.
Blalock. Yeah,
It does. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, this is not what tonight's show is
mean,
about. I'm just frustrated that I can't be on the Star Trek show with you guys. It irritates me. So speaking of things that irritate me, this is one where I was irritated by a recipe. So this isn't addressed at you.
It's not focused and functional
This
for
isn't
once.
focused on you. But I was watching this this thing, and they talk about 2-ingredient pizza dough.
Lie.
But the 2 ingredients are self-rising flour, which is actually 3 ingredients,
Yeah.
just in one
Mhm.
package,
And
then
Greek yogurt.
and then Greek yogurt. So essentially, it's a quick bread.
Yeah. Which
Um,
means it's not going to taste like pizza dough.
well, I mean, but then you add sourness to make it like that, and I'm thinking, okay, am I just being kind of a jerk? Probably. You know, I'm
No,
willing
they're the
to-
ones being the jerks.
I mean, pizza dough's not that hard to make anyway.
Yeah.
And it's not
Well-
that time. It's almost the same amount of time.
Well, no, this is actually very fast because real pizza dough takes days to make, and you can fake it in a few hours. But this is like a quick bread that, you know, you've got pizza within a half hour.
I do the slightly fake one that's within a few hours. That's
Yeah.
the one I do.
Well, I started thinking about like Duncan Hines cake. So like here's the instructions, right? You add eggs and vegetable oil. You go, oh well, so technically does that mean it's 3 ingredients? It's 3-ingredient cake? Well, no, not when you look at the ingredients that are in the stuff. That's really
It's in the
tiny.
box
I
mix.
apologize.
It's a tiny.
Seemed like a good idea at the time. Let's make that larger.
Oh, that works.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah.
Sugar.
So really, it's a box full of ingredients. So I think these people who get obsessed with the number of ingredients in their recipes need to just be stopped.
It's usually
It's
the
like-
keto people.
Yeah.
It's like 2-ingredient stuff. You only need pancake mix and water, and you too can have flapjacks. It's like,
Oh, on a slight story note, one of my friends was having a cake done for her anniversary. It was a wedding
Mhm.
anniversary, and this one cake, local cake maker went to, and she tasted. She's like, it tasted really good, but she's like, something was weird about it. And so I went on the internet, and I found her private social media page, and she admitted to the fact that she just used box mix,
Mm-hmm.
but then just put like extra butter and extra eggs in it. And I said, she doesn't even make the cake from scratch. Don't touch her.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, fuck her then." I was like, "Yep," because
Yeah.
I can understand if like the cakes are really like you do like sugar flowers or like really impressive like marzipan or like fondant stuff. I can understand maybe using box mix then, but her stuff wasn't that involved for her to get away with that. So I was like, "Bye bye."
Well, if you look at food history and the history of something like the Duncan Hines cake mix,
Yeah.
this was a huge labor saver for people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because essentially it meant that, you know, people who were working 14 hours a day because they didn't have modern conveniences could actually make a cake and make it with way less effort. And they might even have one of those newfangled mixers.
cheaper too, because
Yeah.
for the one box you can make a cake, whereas if you needed to buy all the ingredients by themselves in the minimum quantities to bake a cake, you're going to be left over with a whole lot left over, and overall it's costing you quite a bit. So yeah, it was a very good. I'm not bashing these pre-mixed things.
Oh, yeah.
They're very great, but don't bill it as 2-ingredient people. Like, come on.
Yeah. All
Well, it's
right.
like- It's just, it was nice also for the people who didn't have a lot of money because like you could get cake mix for cheap and then make someone a cake for like their birthday and they could have a
Yeah,
happy moment.
definitely.
Well, while
Yeah.
Serenity's talking,
I see how it is.
And I mean, like
your
with
senator.
Food Network stuff, like that would be a 2-ingredient cake or 3-ingredient cake, which is like,
Yeah. Well, actually, the thing that got me looking at that was Chef John made a quick pizza thing, but he actually used more ingredients and made it not terrible. I'm
that's
still good. I'm still gonna do the real thing, but he did what he called a flash pizza. It was pretty interesting.
It's like just a flatbread.
Yeah, it's a quick bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Manchin did something kind of weird recently. So it's almost like he's trying to say, "Hey, look, I'm a Democrat too. I'll happily talk to you about spending money, just not $2 trillion like we were talking about before." But then you kind of like look further down, and he's saying, "Well, I'll do this, but only if we get to open up some of the energy production." It's really very much a compromise. He's not saying, "I'm just going to help you spend tons and tons of money." He wants something in return. And I don't know if it's something like this is going to happen. He says, outlined energy policies he supports, including tax credit for clean energy manufacturing legislation that would replace fossil fuel generation with advanced nuclear. I'm all about that. So he's trying to say, play with me on this stuff, and maybe we can kind of meet in the middle on some other things.
Well, I can guarantee you, if he's doing the nuclear stuff, West Virginia, because we're such a low population state, we'd be perfect for nuclear power plants to come in, more of them, and be built here and stuff like that. So that would work for us really well.
The new designs, the smaller modular designs, don't need the huge exclusion zones. You don't need to think in those terms in terms of nuclear anymore.
No, well, I live within spitting distance of 8 CANDU reactors that I feel perfectly safe.
Yeah. But I know, but there's so many people who are uneducated about it that they would feel
they think
better.
You're going to be the next 3 Mile Island.
Well, so, you're gonna have to sell it. This is the thing I keep saying. It's like, okay, so you think global warming is a problem? Don't just tell people that we're your betters. Listen to us. You've got to convince people. If you can't make your case, too bad for you. That's the way democracy works. Yeah, the same thing goes with capitalism. If you can't make the case for capitalism, we're screwed. You have to make the case. Otherwise, you're just saying we just need a dictator or a king that does what I want him to do.
Yeah, and only what I want him to do.
And that'll never go wrong, because that always philosopher king is always perfect. That didn't work when they tried it the last time.
Quick question for you all, because I don't know. Does West Virginia do a lot of energy production?
We have the capability to do it. One, it's just the fact that
coal.
Yeah, we're coal.
Jesus.
They produce tons of coal.
Yeah,
but that's more the mining and processing side, and not.
No, we actually have a lot of coal power plants here too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's why I'm wondering, like, why is it news that Manchin is sort of talking about energy generation?
I think it's up in the Panhandle that if you hit that one power grid, you take down West Virginia Panhandle. Sorry, I think I think it's up there. I think if you hit that one part and another part, you take out the entire East Coast. I think it could have changed. This is years ago, because I remember my grandfather talking about it because he used to work for a nickel plant. But no, we have coal plants like the BS bill that they're trying to push through the EPA, I think, recently about mercury production coming from coal plants is complete hornswoggle, because no coal plant produces that much mercury anymore. But we're coal people. Like, that's the reason. I'm sure that's where the original Learn to Code BS came from.
I knew it was the coal. It was a good source of actually mining coal and processing coal. Yeah. I just didn't know if it was the actual generation side of power industry was coming out of West Virginia, like it does.
We have the
in Ontario, which is
what
most of our provincial export is power, and a lot of that goes right into the United States. So, I mean, if somebody around here were to talk about power, you kind of listen. Whereas if somebody in BC, you'd be like, "What do you know? You know fishing. Get the fuck out of here."
Well, it's like we have the capability. Like, we have coal. We have a lot of natural gas here. I don't agree with mountaintop removal. So that's the one thing that would kind of hit coal a little bit hard. But we have the space, like the free space, what I mean by free space, to build nuclear power plants and stuff
make that
here.
Transition.
Because we're literally like, we're not dead center, but we're on a pretty good pathway that if we just built stuff out and connected to other power grids, we could power from Maine all the way down to tip of Florida, no problem.
Right.
We don't really have oil here, but natural gas, coal, and if nuclear came here, nuclear, which I can guarantee you that's what he's fighting for. So this way he can go, hey, We need to build
He
nuclear power
definitely
plants in West
seems like
Virginia.
one of the more level-headed Democrats because
can be.
where he's saying, yes, I want to get rid of fossil fuel generation, but I want to replace it with nuclear. You don't have this pipe dream of, oh, we're going to put solar panels on everybody's house and on the sidewalks and on the roads, and we're going to make giant windmills. It's like, no, that those two things are not remotely equal.
Well, you don't like windmills?
I don't not like them. I just think you cannot replace entire power grids that have been using fossil fuels with anything short of nuclear.
Well, you can if you want it to be crappy
What's
and not reliable. If you want it to basically, act like Texas's grid in the winter and or the problems that Germany's had. Germany has. If you look at Germany and France side by side, France invested a bunch of money in nuclear, and their grid is solid and works. And Germany invested a bunch of money in green stuff, and their grid is kind of like California's. It's not good.
It's reliant on Russia.
Yeah, and then there's the gas thing. But I'm just going to say one cynical thing before we move on to the next thing, which is I kind of suspect that Manchin might be doing political calculus here.
Most likely, yeah.
He wants to basically put a hand across the non-existent aisle because ostensibly he's a Democrat, right? There shouldn't be an aisle to put his hand across. But that's what he's doing. He's putting a hand across the aisle. And at the same time, he's putting conditions on here which he knows they're never going to agree to. So he can claim to still be a Democrat, but at the same time, he's not going to be dragged into anything.
Well, I mean, the thing is that he's a West Virginia Democrat, which means he's a very conservative Democrat, a.k.a. a very liberal Republican. But
well, he's more Republican than some Republicans.
Oh, yeah, no, he is. Surely more Capito could learn something from him. But anyway, I think what this is probably him doing is him also trying to get ahead of the, where's a piece of wood? Knock on wood. Red wave that may or may not occur. And I think that's him trying to put himself in a position of being the bridge between the hardcore conservative, Republican, whatever, and the hardcore liberal, progressive Democrat stuff. I think that's also what he's trying to do.
He's been getting in the media quite a bit lately, so that might even set a foundation for a possible presidential bid for the Democrats. Because if he can play the theater like he seems to be, and like Harry's hinting at, that he can seem to be the uniter, the peacemaker between not only within his own party but across the aisle, then maybe it would look favorably come choosing time.
It could, but I think I agree with a lot of people that DeSantis I don't think is going to run for president. I think Manchin is very similar. I think he knows he has it good where he is because he can be Democrat enough just to be considered a Democrat, but he can be conservative enough just to be considered conservative. So he's kind of he's basically an independent without being an independent.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just about to say, I just wish we had someone. Bird had his problems, but Bird put the fear of Christ into that entire set. And I just wish we had another person like that, but he seems to be doing that in his own way. Go ahead, Skep.
I think Manchin, in carving out this moderate place where a far red or a far blue cannot hurt him in West Virginia, he's given up any idea of ever going for the presidency. The simple reason is he has just punched too many Democrats in the nose with the positions that he's taken. They will never forgive that. And if they can find a way to primary him, believe you me, they will do it in 1 second. Because they consider him disloyal. So, and I think those feelings are deeply personal and basically take him out. The other thing is that all this political positioning has to be, you have to think about the elephant in the room. Orange Man's going to run in 2024. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me. That's an ego that cannot be stopped. And he is, his wet dream, Trump's wet dream right now is that he's going to come in and just slaughter these guys, and he's going to be in charge again and shove this stuff right down their throats. You know, he's going to come in. That's actually why I think we'll get a Democrat president, because I think too many people are turned off from Trump. They will never make the bandwagon that he made that one time.
I guess we'll find out.
Time will tell. Yeah, time will tell.
Okay, so I've got an action item for you, Serenity.
Go for it.
So when is Manchin up for election again?
Let me double check. I think Shelley Moore's up next. I think he's up this year. I think. I'm not sure though.
Well, the thing I'm going to ask you to do is if it's anytime soon, I want you to see who get some information on his Democratic challengers.
2025 is when he's...
Okay, because
that's what I thought. Shelley Moore.
Assuming we're all still doing this in 2024, can you find out who his Democrat challengers are? Because you know that AOC and her crowd are going to put their money behind somebody to try to take him out. Now, whether the broader DNC decides to take him out is the question. It's going to depend on a lot of stuff.
That's the one problem in this state, is that a lot of Democrats don't understand that, and it's both works against and for West Virginia, is that we have, all percentage-wise, almost equal to Florida in aging population, and they have a tendency to be more conservative. So they can send AOC down here, but nobody respects her, except for very
just AOC's money.
Well,
AOC isn't going to show up because her shoes would get dusty, and that would make her sad, and she'd probably start crying again somewhere near a fence.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm saying is just keep your ear to the ground, and if you find out about any challengers to mention, let me know.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm going to keep this thing moving. Okay, so here's somebody who actually seems to sort of kind of understand. This is what I was sort of saying. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont signs emergency legislation Thursday that will suspend a 25-cent per gallon state gasoline tax.
Smart man.
So everybody talks about, we're going to provide relief to the consumers.
You mean like your state?
Right, but they're not actually serious about it, because secretly, like in this state, they love the fact that the prices are high. Because they don't want you to drive a car. In fact, they probably don't even want you to own a car.
Yep.
It's a real problem. So I think this is actually a pretty ballsy move. It's exactly the right thing to do. Yeah. Because if you look at it and somebody's thinking, I'm going to go on vacation. Well, we have two choices. We can go to some place in Connecticut, or we can go to some other place. Well, if Connecticut is a more pleasant place to be and it doesn't cost as much money to drive around, that makes it a more attractive vacation spot. And then it's just like one stupid example. Why would you want to be the state that says, we really like tourism. Come here and we'll basically bend you over and have our way with you at the gas pump every single time you fill up? Because that's what California's doing to the tourists. You know, you're making it so that why would anybody want to come to California and ride a cable car? Because just getting around the state, because it's a huge freaking state, costs too much.
Well, it's like, for comparison, this is Los Angeles, California to Hartford, Connecticut. It is 47% cheaper overall to live in Connecticut than it is California, and Los Angeles at least. If you kind of break that down to smaller bits, that even then when you consider the cheaper places, air quotes, to live in California, like, that's still going to be probably about, I want to say, a 20 to 30% difference. And people are already leaving California. Like, they had the U-Haul shortage. And now there's talk of, I didn't see it in the docket later, but there's talk of Newsom giving like $400 gas cards to people with their own tax money to pay for gas.
Just announced it.
Yeah. Oh, that BS. But anyway, but it's like, when you just consider the fact that, it's that much of a difference, that would be enough to make me go, Connecticut.
Well,
my state was already a little bit cheaper.
In California, they of course they have an insatiable need for money for a whole variety of reasons. We don't need to go over that again. But there's an insatiable need for money in California because of the way the state's run. And so, what if you can tax something where the demand is fairly inelastic, meaning that people won't use that much less of it? something like cigarettes, people don't usually trail back on cigarettes because you add another 10 cents a pack to the taxes. People are going to do what they're going to do. And when it comes to driving, short-term increases in price take a while before they cause long-term changes in behavior. Something like gas. So anything that's perceived as a temporary price increase on gasoline doesn't usually translate into like somebody buying a less ridiculous SUV, or considering not taking a job that requires a really long commute.
But it's the perception of the temporariness of it.
It's the perception of the temporariness of it. I think that, when you've been kicked in the groin enough, which is what it is basically to be a Californian, there's no incentive for them to do something like that here. But I think Ned Lamont kind of maybe has his finger on the pulse of his voters and says, maybe this would be a good idea. To just give everybody a little bit of relief instead of syntaxing them with gas the same way they do with cigarettes. I'm going to move this forward unless you have something functional. Nope, he's muted. Okay. All right. So Biden said a bunch of things which made absolutely no sense to me.
A normal day.
Yeah, I know. A sort of a normal day. So EU deal to undercut Russian energy. I think Skep's mic just fell down.
Yeah.
So
it did. Oh, thank you.
Biden,
Sorry.
Biden just showed up in Europe and started saying, "Oh, don't worry, we'll keep your gas prices down. Just come into the warm embrace of the United States, and we'll send you more natural gas." Now,
we have to produce it first. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that it does raise the question of where is this gas going to come from? So my bullshit detector was going off, and I'm like, okay, old man, where is this gas coming from all of a sudden? Because it's not like you've done anything. You haven't done anything to increase domestic production. In fact, you've done lots of things to stop domestic production. So I found this article, this in Scientific American, which I thought was pretty good. Increasing LNG supplies to Europe would largely involve redirecting cargoes headed toward other locations, since raising production volumes could take years, according to note by Goldman Sachs, blah, blah, blah. While some of that reallocation has already been happening, sustaining it will prove challenging as next winter approaches. Most of the redirected supply has been driven by European gas prices commanding a premium, rather than by policies, meaning we can get more money for the gas in Europe, so we're selling to them. That's just the market, and that's the way it's supposed to work. And this is, from somebody who's the head of natural gas research at Goldman Sachs. So he gets to show up and claim that he's doing something when it's already been happening because of the change in gas prices, and he's done nothing to facilitate an increase in supply. In which case, I think it's largely just bullshit.
Yeah.
No, it's just how good he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me about this, Skep. How good is Biden?
The thing about when I was a stockbroker, I used to sell limited partnerships in drilling ventures as tax shelters, and you get to know a few basic things about the oil business, as they call it. Natural gas is harder to handle than oil. Ceteris paribus, a natural gas well into a pipeline is a more expensive and more time-consuming operation than simply taking oil out of the ground and pumping it either into, probably into some sort of local pipeline network, or getting rid of it some way. It's easier to handle liquids than it is gas. There, believe it or not, there are fewer regulations surrounding it. So I think they're on the nose about LNG taking a longer time to to ramp up sources of production, and I think that's an accurate statement that they're going to have to divert current shipments, and some people are going to have to go without.
Well, also LNG tankers are a special breed of tanker. It's not like an oil tanker.
I wasn't going to go there because I would sit here and talk for fucking hours about hull characteristics of tankers.
I could assure you that you won't.
Yeah, okay. I was on a tanker. That was my ship. I was my goddamn tanker. I was the liquid cargo officer.
But there's a finite number of these things, so it's not like you can snap your fingers and suddenly, it's not like we can build a pipeline to Europe to send them gas. All of this stuff has to be liquefied and then put on a boat.
Yeah, and Pascagoula can't shit out 25 natural gas tankers, in 15 minutes.
You can't build them like Liberty ships either, nor would you want to with something like an LNG tanker.
Don't want
to. Good times.
Yep. Okay, moving on.
Move on. All right. Let's see. Moving on here. Okay, so here's another thing which I read, which made my brain hurt. Apple to manufacture iPhone SE with carbon-free aluminum. Now, the first question I have with this is, what in the hell is carbon-free aluminum?
Right?
I'm like, do you mean it's produced it has no carbon footprint? What the hell is carbon-free aluminum? And I had to do some research to figure this out. Apparently, the process for smelting or creating aluminum alloy for this stuff involves carbon. It's basically part of the process that you have like these carbon electrodes that are used in the heating of this thing, and they get consumed, as electrodes often do, in the process of this. So we're not talking about the metric, shit ton of CO2 that's used to power the whole process. I was confused because, like I said, what is this carbon-free aluminum? And I was like, are you talking about alloying carbon? No, it's the consumption of carbon as part of the process of smelting it, in addition to all these other things. So, of course, this is much, much, much less important than the power that goes in and the source of the power. So I had to go, okay, so what on earth is this? And it turns out that the Canadian government and Apple and a couple aluminum producers have been putting time and energy into coming up with a new process for this thing. So I have a video here, and hopefully I won't screw this up. I think the audio is here. Let me know if you can't hear this.
Can't hear anything.
Of course you can't. Why would you? Let's try this again.
Carbon-free aluminum. Yeah,
I'm
I
done.
thought all
Give me a
aluminum
moment
was
here.
carbon-free.
Well, it's not like high carbon steel.
I know it's not like an alloy. I actually worked in an aluminum foundry. My first computer job was in an aluminum foundry, and my title was the computer guy. This was in 1985.
Nice. All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay, go.
Okay, let's try to move this back a little bit.
Years later comes a discovery just as revolutionary. There is a new way to make this miracle metal. It creates pure oxygen, and it eliminates all greenhouse gas emissions.
Aww.
Traditional process used to make aluminum.
I'm gonna lie in a field and enjoy aluminum smelting oxygen.
That's great oxygen, Mom. Well, it came from the aluminum plant.
Okay, so we're not using carbon, and the process produces oxygen. Okay, next.
Relies on carbon-based materials. This contributes to emissions of carbon dioxide and other climate-warming gases.
Okay.
But this new breakthrough process eliminates the carbon. Instead, proprietary materials are used, and there's only one byproduct.
It eliminates the carbon by using some mystery material that we're not going to tell you what it is.
Secret.
It's maybe it's made from the same stuff as Captain America's shield. I don't know. I mean, seriously.
We use kryptonite.
Yeah. I just feel like I'm being lied to. I'm sorry. Let me just play a little more of this.
Oxygen, a world's first.
Look,
the technology can create more aluminum in the same size smelting cell as the traditional process, and it can be installed in new facilities or retrofitted for existing ones.
Let's bring back some memories.
So basically, we want the government to force manufacturers to buy our product. So that they don't consume carbon. It's not a huge amount of carbon that we're talking about that gets saved, but they claim that it's the equivalent of. Let me see here. Hold on. Let me just give you
Okay.
one quick quote, and then I'll hand it over to you. If the ELYSIS technology is adopted only in Canada, it has the potential to reduce the annual greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 7 million metric tons, which is an equivalent of removing 1.8 million cars from the road. Now, in the big scheme of things, that is not a ton of carbon compared to the amount that we're actually producing. But go on, Skep.
All right. I think that this is second order virtual signaling. And what they want to do is they want to come out with a process for refining aluminum that they can label as carbon-free aluminum. This is like guaranteed not to be a blood diamond kind of a virtue signal. And that it's the virtue signal that is driving this technology, not any real gain, any real important benefit to the environment. That's just an opinion, cynical opinion.
Well, I suspect you're probably not wrong. All right, this is dumb. Any other questions from anybody else? Do you want a carbon-free aluminum phone, Serenity?
That's all I want.
No. I want one that works. That's all I want.
Haven't you been feeling bad about the amount of CO2 that was produced in the production of your phone?
No.
Okay. Well,
I want the vibranium or whatever the mystery metal is that they use in this process. And I'd actually like to know, in all seriousness, like what the carbon footprint of this new mystery metal that they use in the process.
You know, that's a great question.
What was the carbon footprint of the new factory? Like, what was how much did y'all put out to get stuff to? I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
It's something very dirty.
We're forcing this woman in this picture who probably, has a degree in everything, to shovel aluminum into a molten vat. This is progress. This is the diversity that we need right there.
I wanted to ask you, does this make transparent aluminum?
No, it doesn't make.
Because I saw Star Trek 4.
There you go.
Talk to the mouse.
Yeah.
Where are the nuclear vessels in Alameda?
I love that.
Alameda.
Okay, now you're just trying to throw me off. So I found something terrible.
Whistles?
I found something terrible, which I don't think anybody in our little corner of YouTube has talked about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I introduced to you Doconomy, which provides leading impact data services for individuals and corporations to help educate, engage, and reduce environmental impact. And you say, Harry, that's just a bunch of words, and you didn't actually say anything. Yes, I didn't actually say anything, but let's
wait. Can you go back? Doconomy provides leading impact data, undefined services. Leading impact data services. Who knows what that is?
Leading, not trailing. Leading.
Where's your comparators? It shows the numbers. Okay, for individuals and corporations to help educate, engage, and reduce. That is a nonsense. That's not.
It is because when
you're
just a
group of words getting together playing bridge.
When you're trailing, you're just smelling somebody else's methane. That's only losers trail. Leaders lead. So if you look at some of the things that they have done in terms of their products. Here is a product. Okay.
I'm seeing a whole lot of soy.
Come on. Load this thing for me.
Soy. Nope.
He said,
nope.
Boy,
It's new environmental shit, Harry. Less electricity. Yeah.
Darn it.
Nope. Does that say Mastercard, you bastard?
It does, and that's the thing I'm trying to find. You guys talk while I fix this.
United Nations, fuck you. S&P Global, fuck you. I don't even know who this Alan Boxkin thing is. But you're German. Fuck you. It's your own fault. Germany, it's your own fault. Why must you always be the fault for everything?
Yeah, well, basically, they are launching a Mastercard, and for something, I'm having trouble getting the link to load. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so the Doconomy Mastercard. It's one of their little services that they're trying to do.
Yeah, I got something to pull up.
You get the link?
I think so. Please. Oh, there's a Mastercard carbon calculator. Woo!
I know, that's the thing. So
yeah, I had to
translate financial transactions into CO2 and H2O impact based on the world leading. What?
We're fucked.
Yeah, have you? And you haven't heard anybody sort of in the monkey sphere talking about this thing, right? Okay, Doconomy and Mastercard sets global standard with carbon calculator. Companies, consumers, and communities must work together to make significant changes needed to effectively address climate change. So imagine, if you will, a credit card that shames you on all your purchases and can even tell you that you aren't allowed to buy things if you've caused too much carbon footprint during.
It's like
your
listening
billing
to
period.
NPR all the time.
Yeah,
That's the reason why we don't use
Like
Mastercard.
living in China.
yeah.
No.
So
Yeah,
well, it's a social credit system with subverting the traditional social credit system, being facilitated by a government. Now it's just being done by one of the leading transaction processors in the world.
I'm curious.
Doconomy has signed an agreement with BNP Paribas, Bank of the Worst, which makes the starting point for the Doconomy carbon emission tracker solution in North America. By implementing Doconomy's corporate offering with the Bank of West technical platform, the bank's consumers soon can start tracking and measuring the CO2 impact of their consumption. Bank of the West plans to launch the new service in the spring of 2020.
Cash Society, here we come.
Can I just tell you what the CEO of MasterCard said about this?
Please.
The Mastercard carbon calculator informs consumers about the carbon footprint of their purchases so that they can make more mindful spending decisions and contribute to forest restoration. By embedding sustainability in the very fabric of our business, we can unlock the power of our network, reaching billions of consumers and partners to transform them into our slaves. Okay, I changed the last part, but
yeah,
that's basically what he meant.
Can we just get Skynet instead, please?
Yeah,
Like,
I want Terminator robots. Fuck this shit.
It's less scary than this subversion. Like, I mean,
Yeah, 'cause
it
at least
means
that can
that
stop with an
MasterCard
EMP.
can then have even more power over basically at point of sale advertising, and really, elevate companies that play ball with them and devalue or less exposure to companies that won't play ball.
Right.
They
not
can
promote
control
them
markets
as much. Functional. What do you think about the idea that you could go up and you're paying for something, right? You're buying something at Best Buy, and maybe it's a tablet that was produced with not carbon-free aluminum, but carbon-full aluminum. And so this carbon-full aluminum tablet that you purchase at Best Buy, you're paying for it, and so you pay for it, and the cashier says, "Oh, you have to sign that you understand that you're making an irresponsible purchase, and this purchase has been recorded and in your dossier in Washington." And why wouldn't that happen? Well, the only reason that wouldn't happen is because why would they give you a message?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, you could also do the same approach with like a Big Gulp at 7-Eleven. So if you get a sugar drink as opposed to a sugar-free drink and it's like a half gallon, you should have to sign a waiver, right?
Well, absolutely.
Well, that would just be the next step, right?
Wasn't that Bloomberg when he was president of New York City?
Yeah.
God Emperor of New York City.
Yeah, God Emperor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he put I think it was a junk food tax too, and then they caught him on the street eating a hot dog, and they were like, "What the f, dude?"
Yeah. Well, I think you guys are going to enjoy.
So they want to shame you while you pay your sin taxes on your sugars and your tobaccos and your. It's
telling you.
Well, this is just the start. We want the credit card to basically decide, the credit card companies to monitor the virtue or vice of your spending, and that's in no way like a system of haram and halal. Because it's not religious, it's secular, so it's different.
It's
totally
not
different.
like we're not worshiping the climate. There's no relationship. No.
What is chat?
And how long before some of this stuff gets quote unquote leaked? And oh well, look, my political opponent, his score on this carbon calculator is a 102. Mine is only 24.
And I bought a carbon-free aluminum phone.
My opponent clearly doesn't care about the environment.
And it's only going to matter to like a small portion of the population of this country.
Yeah. And you know, if you're good, they'll let you buy an extra box of chicken tenders when you go to the market, because you get tendies when you're a good boy.
Chicken tendies.
I'm all for informed consent in commerce,
Yeah.
but the reverse, for them to shame you or lodge you based on your purchases, is just, it just seems.
That's the reason why no
I
one
hate to use such a, you know, analogous amorphous word like wrong, like ethically wrong, but it does, like, and I don't know why.
Well, since we have a segue now, speaking of chicken nuggets,
Chicken nuggets. Oh God!
There's a new show on Prime Video where Lizzo is looking for big girls to be her backup dancers for her show.
Oh God! There's gonna be so many heart attacks.
Yeah, it's called Watch Out for the Big Girls, GRRRLS. Now, I had this in the plan before Lauren Chen did this a couple hours, 2-3 hours ago. So Lauren actually did a good job on this, and you can check that out, because she actually went to the trouble of watching 3 episodes of this. I have no such intention. I can make fun of this without watching any episodes of it.
Between my not feeling so hot and, you know, Skep being an older gentleman, you should have given us a warning, Harry.
Well, no warning. And here's, let's just turn this down a little. Here's a little sample of
the trailer. Dead on stream. Oh God!
It's Lizzo. I'm looking for dancers.
There's Lizzo.
To join me on my tour.
Who actually listens to her music? Like, that's my legitimate question, because I've never actually heard like, no one I know or anyone around actually like.
Now,
you're not pretty. You're not pretty.
From what I've heard, one of the problems she's having with this competition is the girls tend to get winded and don't seem to have enough in them for a 1.5 hour show. Yeah. I think this would be easy. What she really needs is like teams. So you like have like squads. So like she have each squad do like a half hour, and then she could have 3 times as many dancers total. Everybody gets to dance.
Getting winded like after 5 minutes though. that's really the problem. You know what you could do if you wanted to put together a dance troupe? You could get a bunch of people together and have them work hard, getting really fantastic physical shape where they could go for a long time. They'd look great. They could jump higher and do more graceful things. Just an idea.
Well, I actually used to know one of MC Hammer's Fly Girls.
Really?
Now, this was not when she was one of the Fly Girls. She was a retired Fly Girl. But I've actually talked to a Fly Girl, an actual Fly Girl, talked to her about being a Fly Girl. So I know something about this, at least secondhand, as opposed to, I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. And she was very nice. But dancers on the whole are not like usually thin, skinny model types to begin with.
The only ones that are ballet.
Right. These kinds of dancers tend to be a bit on the thick side. You know, you've got, we're talking about women who actually have thighs and muscle and tone and definition. They tend to be not model thin.
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, like look at before she had all the plastic surgery done to her face, Jennifer Lopez and like Paula Abdul, like they're not big girls, but they're not skinny either. And can we get off that image? Can we get off that image?
Yeah. Oh, this
Please.
Image. Okay, let's see. Okay, how about this image? No, I can do better.
Oh God. It's like
I feel the earth move.
It's like the Sarlacc pit. It's just Just because you can do splits doesn't mean you should.
Okay. So I think we get the general idea here. Now,
the juiciest. The sweat is not juice.
Honestly, I somebody who's working really hard to sort of overcome some kind of problem they've fallen in, whether it's alcoholism or obesity or whatever, totally has my support. I'm not. It's not my job to go around taking a huge dump on people that are trying to get in shape. But this is a show that glorifies fatness, saying that it's totally okay to not only is it okay and that you shouldn't pick on people, but we should sort of glorify them. You know, and then you start talking about the Hottentot Venus and all this sort of stuff. And I just worry that it sends a powerful message to people who we might want to say, hey, you know, maybe fewer chicken tenders.
Well, I mean, it's the whole fact of like, this is the woman who she apparently like, her boyfriend, possible boyfriend, was in like one of her Instagram posts or something like that. He's not big, so why does she get to be big and he doesn't?
That's a good
This
question.
is a woman who flirted with Chris Evans. I don't agree with Chris Evans' politics, but the man ain't bad to look at.
Well,
Bitch.
remember what happened with Adele? Adele lost a little bit of weight. Well, lost a fair amount of weight.
Wow.
She was a little bit back, but she looks healthier now.
Well, she was a big girl, and now she's pretty close to, I think, what people would consider to be sort of a normal-ish weight.
Yeah, she's a healthier weight. Yeah.
Some fans took the opportunity to comment on the star's apparent weight loss, which has been followed since she posted pictures at Drake's birthday party in October. This was back in 2020. But the compliments have prompted discussions about the potential harms of celebrating weight loss, how to discuss weight in a healthy way, and whether it's appropriate to comment at all.
I say you look very nice. I applaud your hard work, because that probably took a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
You do what you want to make you happy, and as long as you ain't hurting nobody and you ain't hurting yourself, you do you.
Well, I found this great publication called The Mighty. And here in The Mighty, you've got this this Melissa character here. I can't find a big picture of her, which is unfortunate. But
every picture of her is big.
Yeah, you can sort of see what's going on here. And so so she's obviously advocating for, you know, fatness being an okay, not just a zero stigma thing, but something to be applauded, right? This isn't the first time people have zeroed in on the singer's weight. In December of last year, Adele posted a photo that prompted the exact same conversation about her weight loss. While disappointing, really, it isn't a shock that people in 2020 still hold toxic ideas about fatness. She lost a bunch of weight. She became healthier. You're pissed off about it because you somehow feel like your team got a ding. After all, you can hardly escape this sexualizing of women's bodies in media. Even with ad blockers, you're subject to tropes about women and unrealistic body expectations.
I want to tell you unrealistic body expectations. You want to know unrealistic ones? When you have a 90-pound actress beating the shit out of a 250-pound military-trained security person. That's unrealistic.
Atomic Blonde is an excellent movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Shut the hell up. Batwoman is crap.
So she makes the point, you know, you don't know their history with diet and weight loss. Well, in the case of a public figure like Adele, we kind of do. Yeah. You know, and then she's unsolicited weight loss remarks are inherently fat phobic and steeped in systemic racism. I don't even know how race got into this conversation. We're talking about Adele.
Here's where that comes from is that, you know, the stereotype that certain racial groups have a race sex combinations have a higher incidence of obesity, and the implied idea that is a lack of self-control and so forth. And that really, you know, even if the statistics bear it out, I don't see what the point of making that point is. But Harry, what I don't get is why can't these people hold two thoughts in their mind at the same time? Good for you, Adele. Glad you lost weight. It's a free country. Be any size you want. It's no skin off my nose.
Yeah.
And we all go on with our lives and be happy. But no, somebody has to win. You know, everything has to be a zero-sum game. I'm really tired of that.
But and it kind of goes into this whole thing of like, I do think there needs to be a conversation of the, how do I put this? What weight looks like on different body types, because 200 pounds on a 5'11" woman is different than 200 pounds on a 5'1". So I think that's a conversation that does need to be had sometimes. But like that picture of Adele, one's older and she's put a little bit of weight back on, but it's not bad weight. I think she looks healthier now than she ever did. But it's just this whole thing of like, if you want to be fat, but that doesn't mean you get to change the world to make it so you get the hot guy. Because that's essentially what most of them are doing. Like, I mean, or like Tessa Holiday not too long ago claimed she was anorexic.
Well, yes, we talked about that recently. So I want to address
Yeah.
Check's point. He said, I didn't see many people actually attack Adele. Yes, that is absolutely true. You didn't see many people doing it.
But
What there are is this ridiculously influential small group of very loud, annoying people. This is sort of what Twitter is. It's this amplifier through which coherence is made incoherent and then emitted. It's not a good thing, the way the whole Twitterverse works. So yeah, I mean, in most of these sort of outrage things, it's something like that. And actually, let me see. I think the next story might play to that.
The MSNPC op-ed.
Because
there was an MSNPC op-ed this week that was released that basically said, if you work out, you're a white nationalist Nazi. I'm not.
They've done that one a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, this was the latest in a series of like, if you work out is it's the Hitler drank water argument.
Or he was also a vegetarian. Yeah,
vegetarian. That's what it was. I thought it was vegan. He was an asshole. He was a vegan.
All right. So I wanted to go. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say this real quick, just to kind of put this into numbers, so everybody understands. As of February this year, Twitter has currently 217 million monetizable active users. So that's less than the population of the United States, and this is worldwide. So whenever anybody's like, I'm popular on Twitter, just look at them and go, don't mean shit.
I think at last I looked, it was less than 10% of the United States population was actually active on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
With a little work, we can get those numbers down further.
Yeah.
Come on, we can do it, folks. We can do it.
You know,
I try to tell people to get off.
Twitter takes a lot of abuse, but it's not really Twitter's fault. All Twitter does, well, it's not completely Twitter's fault. Twitter does do some wrong things in the censorship department, but essentially all Twitter is a platform where you can type in your thoughts and submit them and control who gets to see that. It can be 0, 1, or many. Or one, a few, or many, just depending on how you do it. That's all Twitter is. That's all it is. So, once again, blaming the gun, for the murder rate is not the right thing. It's how people use Twitter. That's the problem. It's not Twitter itself.
Well, no, I'm just saying that for like when people, the type of people who do that kind of stuff, when they're acting like they've talked to a massive audience, they have, but it's not even close to even the population of the United States. And this is spread out amongst 7 billion people. So it's one of those things when you consider the size of it, Twitter shouldn't have the impact it does. And I think Twitter's starting to lose a little bit of that impact because, like, by comparison, Instagram has 1 billion users, active users. So it's that kind of thing where it's like,
well, the reason it's revolutionary, Serenity, is because back in 1980, how many people could I reasonably reach, with my voice? A few, really. Maybe if it was some company-based thing, I could talk to an assembly of company. What Twitter has done is it's made lots and lots of people able to hear what other lots and lots of people are thinking, are feeling, and it's absolutely revolutionary. That change has taken place, but I think we're getting too far afield, and Harry probably.
I actually agree with you on some points, Skep. I think the gun analogy is a little flawed because I think Twitter does have a lot of culpability here when they take actions like banning a sitting president, but yet
I said I counted for that exception.
Yeah. But and then so where I'm going with that. When there's people like the Ayatollah and ISIS members on Twitter, sure. But also we didn't have these problems when we had things like MySpace. On bulletin boards, on other various forms of older social media that have now become obsolete with the juggernaut that is basically Twitter and the associated platforms like Parler or whatever, the satellite platforms that are infinitely smaller but still serve the same purpose. So I don't think that they're completely without culpability, but you're right in that it's the users that are pushing it along, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. We good?
We good.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do this next one really, really quickly. Because I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this. We can make up a little bit of time. So this guy, Legal Eagle, who's sort of I don't know. I can't quite tell if he's a midwit sort of legal guy on YouTube or not. But let me just play this because it's very, very
sad
short.
eyes.
To inform you that Tucker Carlson has said something incredibly stupid about the legal profession.
So it might be time
Okay.
for Joe Biden to let us know what Ketanji Brown Jackson's LSAT score was. What the hell did she do in the LSAT? Why wouldn't he tell us that?
Yes, Tucker Carlson wants to see Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's LSAT.
Okay, this guy basically goes on to say that the LSAT is not really important. I'm just trying to not get his copy struck. That the LSAT isn't a particularly important measure of things, and there are great justices who've had high LSATs and great justices who've had low LSATs, and that he's ignorant for even asking this thing.
Well, I mean, it's Tucker. He was being sarcastic usually in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like,
I think anybody with half a brain could tell from his tone that he's more so throwing it back in the Dems' face and saying, "You wanted to see somebody's high school yearbook?"
Okay,
So
I actually commented on this, and my comment was basically as follows. I mean, I was trying to think, well, what's a sympathetic way of looking at Tucker's question, right?
Yeah.
As a layperson, it doesn't seem like that dumb a thing to be interested in. You know, as a layperson, because honestly, he didn't present any facts. He didn't name a single justice who had a really shitty LSAT who went on to become a great legal mind. He just made it as a claim. Legal Eagle did, right? He didn't prove anything. He just makes assertions. As far as this goes, but in terms of the LSAT, here's a thing, and he lists all these jobs that Brown has had. She's clerked and done this and done that and done, been a public defender. Okay, great.
There's Kamala.
And how could she not be a good lawyer and do all those things? And I'm like, have you seen government service? We often have people who, because of certain immutable characteristics that they may have that have nothing to do with their job performance, seem to be desirable in terms of hiring. And these people get hired for the sole purpose of checking a box. So this is the problem with things like affirmative action, because we don't know if she's a really good justice or if she was just convenient because she was good enough to that they could hire her, she could get useful work out of her and satisfy the quota. I don't know as a layperson, and I doubt Tucker Carlson knows either. So simply saying, give me an objective measurement of whether she has any real legal skill, like what about her LSAT scores? Doesn't seem like that ridiculous a thing to say, or at least not worthy of mockery. You could say it's a dumb thing, but mocking him as if it's an act of bad will seems to be an act of bad will.
Well,
I would agree. Could I just make a comment?
Please.
If LSAT scores are not relevant to being a good lawyer, why do they, more than almost anything else, govern whether or not you are accepted to law school?
And what caliber of law school?
Yeah, very definitely.
Unless, of course, again, we have some kind of be it an affirmative action or familial tie or something. But yeah, no, you nailed it on the head, Skep. I've even seen other outlets, MSNBC, CNN, TYT, also talk about how people want to look at her previous case history. And they're like, oh, well, it's not like she's going to be, sentencing people on the bench. No, but it gives you, it is entirely relevant because it shows you their work history, the things that they valued as a judge. And I think you guys know where I'm going with this. I saw the complete unpacking of it by Rekieta Law. And at that point, I heard some of the sayings of, she's soft on child-related crimes offenders, let's say. And then to hear Rekieta actually go through the case notes of these trials I was disgusted. I was thoroughly disgusted. This is a woman who lets an offender go who enacted violence upon a child, let him go after 3 months, her sentencing, immediately, 2 days after being released, reoffended, assaulted another child.
Well, functional. At least she didn't canonize,
And
de
then
facto canonize a guy who basically
that's not it, Harry.
put a gun to a pregnant woman's belly.
She gave him a year behind bars and was out 8 months for good behavior. This is not somebody who should be on any bench. Never, like, I mean, woo! It gives me the rage chills.
Well, I suspect that this has been discussed a lot outside of this particular show, which is why I didn't really prepare anything on her actual
It's
record.
fun to make fun of her.
Yeah, I know, but I just this narrowly defined thing. So one thing I was curious about was the memeability of this. So I brought up, I basically just said Ketanji Brown meme into Google. Now it has shifted a little bit. It's shifted just a little bit since I first did this.
Yeah.
But you may notice that it says Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman ever. Sheriff, you're proud of her. First of all, that's not a meme.
Yes.
That's not even remotely meme. That's a picture with some words on it. You don't even know what a meme is if you think that's a meme.
Yeah. That's not the way this works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, that's not how any of this works. This is absolutely useless. So all the way to the right, there's a Forrest Gump, I'm not a biologist thing. Okay, so that's like actually kind of like a meme, right? But then there's just all this other stuff. None of this is a meme. Democrats are so racist, it took them 250 years to nominate a black woman to SCOTUS. Is that a meme? I don't know, sort of. And here's just a picture of her with persevere written under it. Okay, so go ahead. Somebody's trying to say something.
Most people are a little too young to remember Clarence Thomas. His confirmation sort of... They were infinitely, the Dems. I got the name right? Clarence Thomas? He's the...
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. They were vicious and unfair toward him, especially compared to what people are on the current Republicans, supposedly air quotes, doing to Ketanji Brown Jogger Jackson.
Yeah, I think I actually stayed home from school to watch those hearings.
It was pretty hard to watch as a. I mean, I was very young at the time, but
yeah, I skipped school to watch the Bork hearings. I was a very bad student in some ways.
Harry, if you want some fun, change where you have in your Google string Ketanji Brown meme. Change Ketanji Brown to Kavanaugh and see what you get.
Oh, I have something different planned. What I did was go and look at the actual memes from a place where memes actually live, not this curated Google Pollyanna bullshit that they put together. So let's look at some actual memes. It looks like Ketanji Brown Jackson prefers to give lighter sentences to child molesters, and I thought I nominated her because she's black.
Can I just say also her husband's white, like every other one of these women, like Kamala and all the rest of them.
Jim, I'm a doctor, not a Supreme Court nominee.
I think Clarence Thomas's wife is white, actually.
I know, but it's just if she's like a lot of the people on that side, she's a black woman who's going to complain about how evil white people are. She got nominated by a white person and she's married to a white dude. That's the thing that makes it funny. She doesn't know if she's a woman or not. Good Lord.
Did she even vote for me? Is she even black? If the tree
I'm
falls
not an
in the
arborist.
forest, how do I know if it makes a sound? I'm not an arborist. So the difference between like where memes actually live and the supposed memes that you get when you go to the curated thing on Google. But Google has no vested interest in distorting the truth because they're just a fair and impartial. I can't even continue to joke about
just
this.
A bartender of facts, just serving it up.
So I know this will come as a huge shock to you, but there's a lot of dark money involved in getting Supreme Court nominees in place.
Of course.
I know. Who would have thought? I had to go all the way to Business Insider India to find this particular article. Because if you try to find this stuff in the US, it sort of just doesn't show up. But there's a liberal one called Demand for Justice. The influential dark money group and associated political committee, which has advocated for adding 4 new seats to the High Court, had for months agitated for Stephen Breyer to retire and make room for President Joe Biden to fulfill his pledge to nominate the first black woman to the Supreme Court. A year ago, the group dispatched a billboard truck emblazoned with the words "Breyer retire" to circle the Supreme Court and send Breyer a message. Now that it's got what it's wanted, you can expect its efforts to go into overdrive, or hyperdrive, excuse me. We expect the Senate will confirm Biden's pick quickly, but we will do and spend whatever is needed to ensure that ends up being the case. Demand Justice Executive Director Don't Care told CNBC earlier this month, this is a history-making moment to put the first black woman on the court. Just minutes after Biden formally introduced Jackson as his Supreme Court nominee, Demand Justice spent $45,000 to run a 30-second advertisement on ABC affiliate station, yada, 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 with office at, with George Stephanopoulos. So there's a $45,000 ad. Now this was in place. Kind of makes you wonder, how is it that these people know who's going to be picked by Biden when he hasn't made the announcement yet? But this was already in place. These things don't just happen spontaneously. Demand Justice also paid $55,000 for a 30-second ad on another NBC affiliate in DC. And this article just basically lists a whole bunch of this stuff. The Federalist Society, other things, push conservative justices, but there's a whole bunch of dark money trying to manipulate the narrative about Ketanji Brown.
I'm shocked.
I know. What a shock.
Trying to garner control over the judicial branch of government? No.
I know.
Which
right.
I'm sorry as I'm sorry as the resident Canadian on tonight. It seems weird that one branch of government nominates the leaders of the other branch of government. Is there an alternative? I should preface that a better alternative to, I'm speaking rhetorically, to nominating Supreme Court nominee justices.
Well, we could do a lottery. I suspect the result would be interesting.
You can take the old William F. Buckley line that the anyone from the first 500 people in the Boston telephone book would be a better president than Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
Might work here.
So, have you guys been following some of the stuff that's been going on at the Daily Wire?
No.
Well, it turns out that Harry's Razors decided to because a Twitter account with 2 followers tweeted at them saying, "Why are you giving money to the Daily Wire for advertising? Because they're bad people." Mm-hmm. And I don't even remember what the thing was that they supposedly did or didn't do. Does it matter? It was, I don't know, fatness or transness or something. They had cooties and they didn't like them. So a Twitter account with 2 people tweets at Harry's Razors. For all we know, they created the account. Who knows? And then they drop their sponsorship, but they do it in a very public sort of way, which annoyed the people at the Daily Wire because they didn't just stop paying the money. They went out of their way to basically imply that everybody should stop paying the money. So they've decided to make their own razor company because they can. Mm-hmm. Have you guys heard about this?
Oh yes, absolutely. I've been watching this with fascination.
Okay, so this is new for Serenity. At least one person knows about this. So here's a little bit from their so-called greatest commercial ever.
To you, keep buying Gillette. But if you've had enough of the woke bullshit and you're tired of paying companies like Harry's and Gillette to hate you,
model game is on point there.
Yeah, I'm impressed with the models.
then buy my new razor instead.
Shut up and shave.
Behold, Jeremy's razors. Yes, they're real.
Yeah.
Yes, they're fabulous. But Jeremy,
so he he goes off and basically just, because I mean, it's not easy to make an alternative version of many things, but you can make an alternative version of a razor company. The barriers to entry are a lot smaller than making like a new Google. Later on
Right now,
in the...
you're probably wondering if this whole thing is a joke.
Yes, we are.
Sure it is. That doesn't mean it isn't real, or that it won't be the best shave of your life. Harry's Razors doesn't want your business. I do. They seem to hate you, and I...
Again...
Well, I can't say...
Model game very much on point. Yeah, so I like this. I mean, because this is the whole thing. You put your money where your mouth is. Why not just make your own damn company? Not that I want to see the world broken up into camps where, you know, there's the Republican razor and the Democrat razor and the Whig razor. And I don't know, you know, this seems kind of stupid for brands to get into politics, but, you know, we didn't really start this.
No, you know, this is just them sending up how ridiculous the virtue signaling has become, but it's also calling out, you know, the more sinister aspect of, you know, whether or not based on your political views, you'll be allowed to buy this or that. That's where we're headed.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna trim a little bit of. I'm gonna trim a little bit of time here and skip the next thing, geodes. So talk about virtue signaling. Does it get any more pathetic than this? You can get keycaps for your keyboard to show your solidarity with Ukraine, because this is the thing that's going to make a difference.
Thank God. Finally, helpful for people in Ukraine.
I've always needed a Yikpeha key and a Sinaba.
But they're missing the swastika. Oh, wait, sorry. Never mind. Yeah, so this is a thing, and not to mention it's a pre-order, meaning that they haven't even made these things yet. This is a thing where you order it. By the time you receive these things, Ukraine could be a free country, part of Russia, or a smoking hole in the ground. Exactly. There's no way of knowing. I mean, think how sad that is if basically they just turn Ukraine into a parking lot and then your keycaps arrive and you're like, you know, the dream is dead, man. So no. I think maybe
go sail on Lake Ukraine.
Yeah, I guess. This just seems like a terrible idea. Speaking a little more virtue signaling before we move on. I stumbled across this ad and it made me sort of annoyed. I thought it was funny, but just sort of funny in a terrible sort of way. Have you guys seen the Citibank escalator ad? No?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, experience this with me if you would.
Women have to overcome more obstacles to reach the top. It's made them fiercely determined.
Okay. So what is the metaphor we're going for here? Women have a harder time getting to the top because they try running up the escalators like a dumbass?
No, for women, work is a down escalator. Everything is against you. Everything is harder. You have to work 1.5 to 2 or even 4 or 5 times harder than a man just to stay even with them. And you have to look ridiculous
while you do it too. Look at this.
That's right.
Nonsense.
Look how hard it is.
It's so
look how hard she's hard.
You don't even understand how hard it is, Skep.
Oh,
it's like she's the one making it difficult.
Look, she did it.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
Except we can't tell what a woman is anymore, so we don't know if she was a woman.
I just think this is absolutely terrible advertising.
Wait, you can. Oh, I've got it. For Ketanji Brown, we can tell her we found a way to tell women they're the ones going up the down escalator.
Oh yeah, actually, what's her name? Your favorite, the Abramopotamus, Stacey Abrams.
Stacey.
I don't think Stacey Abrams would have done well in this particular thing. Although she might want to try out for one of Lizzo's backup dancers.
No. She's got that JJ money now. She's president of Earth in Star Trek.
Okay. So I did some looking into the company that made this and traced it back to another production of theirs. Amy Becker Burnett directs The Romance Gap for Bumble. Bumble's a dating app, I assume.
What am I looking at here?
You're looking at a big, beautiful
Is that her
woman.
body?
Yes.
Is that her body?
Well, some of it.
I thought we were looking at new planetoids that we discovered or something.
Okay.
No.
James Webb was doing work.
So this is the hashtag Make Romance Equal campaign.
I thought she was looming up behind a castle.
We're going to make romance equal.
Oh.
Let's talk about the romance gap, because there is a gap.
What is the romance
was
gap?
Equal, how come he still has to ask me out, go in for the kiss, and buy the ring?
And why do we secretly want that?
If romance is equal, why do I feel feisty when I'm honest?
Okay, boys, just bear with us for a second, Serenity. Gentlemen.
Negative.
Women really don't have enough power in the whole relationship game, do they?
No, they truly don't. It's not like they hold the keys to the treasure palace that your hormones are telling you must seek the treasure, must get to the treasure. Yeah, no, they make us dance like marionettes, for God's sake.
I don't know, Skep. She looks like she's got a garage door opener.
Well, let's just play a little more of this because I haven't been damaged enough.
And slutty if I don't.
And why do I waste 3 hours thinking, are 2 kiss emojis too many?
No. If romance was really equal,
psychotic.
it would feel different.
Okay, this is just terrible and enabling. This is making me dumber watching it. Serenity, say something. Or is she off with dogs?
She may have gone back off with dogs. The sneer.
Good for her.
The sneer on their faces, it shows what, this is what we think of the stinking men.
So far, they haven't said anything that isn't a you problem, biatch.
Yeah, we all know these types of assumptions and cultural norms exist, but their casual existence doesn't mean it isn't problematic, especially as women are still fighting for equal pay, body, sex, and health rights across the world. Yeah, get back to me when we talk about the difference between prostate cancer funding and women's breast cancer funding. This spot shows that this is an international problem, and these problems affect women of all backgrounds, abilities, and sexualities. Now, this is just crazy. This almost feels like we're getting closer to the Brave New World, Aldous Huxley type of thing, where it's almost considered to be, like if a woman walks up to you, even if she has a feminine penis, if you say no, then you've committed some kind of hate crime.
Hate Camel's comment.
What did Hate Camel say?
He said, if romance was truly equal,
let's get that up here for posterity.
Steak and blowjob day would be advertised just as much as Valentine's.
I mean, there is a lot of stupid game playing that takes place, and I don't think that modern technology and all of the modern stuff has really helped. People are giving out, like, there's paperwork every 5 minutes to make sure that you haven't changed your mind about stuff. All of the old rules. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it just seems to me that, like you said, this is all a you problem. It seems like a bunch of people that they're just mad that they're not being asked out enough, and so they're wondering why the system is the way it is. I don't know. Maybe talk to the women who have these natural advantages and can work the system more effectively. Or maybe just don't be a terrible C word all the time. Like Elowen said, what was it? Where's Elowen's comment? Shower your man with gifts, show your man you love him. Yeah, we really like it when we feel like we're appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can speak for all men and say, yeah, it's actually pretty awesome when we feel like we're appreciated as opposed to taken for granted.
That feeling when home-cooked meal is put in front of her, because I cook. I'm the cook. She doesn't cook. That's how we complement each other in one way. And when she takes that first bite and her eyes light up, and I can see the appreciation in real time. That really gets you right there, and it really is one of the greatest feelings of intimacy with your partner when they do show you that. It doesn't have to be monetary, but the little things count just as much, where they show that they appreciate you being the man in your relationship. And it hasn't been that long since I've been removed from the dating scene. And two things. One, sort of like what Skep was saying about Twitter, these Plenty of Fish and other dating sites, it's not really their fault because they're not really censoring any of this stuff. They're letting people use the platform as intended. But so I don't really hold the technology responsible for the bad actors. And that leads me to my second point, in that, in being in that dating scene as recent as I have been, 7 years ago or whatever, meeting people like in this ad, it was an immediate 180 walk out the door. Like, you're not going to waste my time. I'm not going to put up a pretense of continuing on with a date if you're this much of an entitled asshole.
Yeah. I also, when I hear women talk about like the double standard, about not being appear to be slutty, they seem to think that we don't describe men as man whores when they run around doing terrible things, or we don't mock them because of their poor judgment and their indiscriminate
or
behavior.
That there isn't that Goldilocks zone where the majority of women will look at you and go, okay, that's an acceptable amount of partners. You can just as much be like, lose a potential love interest if they, you divulge your number and they're like, whoa, buddy, that 20, that's way too much for me. I mean, it's just as equally considered. It's not a gendered consideration, I wouldn't think.
Well, here's a modest proposal. Don't focus on the past, because you're starting over with a new person, but part of that is also, don't talk about your past partners. There's very little that's worse, I think, than having a woman.
Yeah, there's no value in it.
Who talks about it, because like, even if you're mad at me because of something your father did and I just reminded you of something that some other guy did, I don't care. You can just internalize that. Go talk to your girlfriends about it, but don't take that crap out on me. And in return, we all get a clean slate.
Again, Harry, that's a them problem.
The past. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a you problem. That's a personal problem. That is something that even in a relationship remains your personal secret information about you. You don't need to, aside from, oh, well, I was a whore in Thailand for 10 years. Like, I mean, sure, that might, throw up some red flags. But, if you had a sexual past or whatever, that's your past.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, we are getting
those girls in Thailand are very nice, by the way. They're very,
but this
very pleasant to talk to.
But because it's so easy to make video now, anybody can just basically make stuff like this and have it look professional. You can go out and get a camera and and just edit this stuff. It's super simple now. So what's happened is, it used to be hard for people to make the cut to the point where you could actually produce something, because it was expensive. A single camera was $100,000. You couldn't shoot it on an iPhone 13. And just like Red equipment, as expensive as it is still way cheaper than what it used to cost to buy the equipment to do this stuff. So now stupid people with irritating ideas can make professional videos. Yay, progress. Let's see. So completely and utterly shifting gears away from this crap. There is a serious vulnerability in Google Chrome. And if you're using Google Chrome as your browser, you need to upgrade immediately. I won't bore you guys with the details of it, but effectively, this is not just a hypothetical thing where somebody said, theoretically, somebody can mess with your system. No, there are actually bad actors who are using this to mess with people's systems.
Great.
Okay. For instance, North Korean hackers exploit Chrome 0-day to target fintech, IT, and media firms. This is the same thing. So if you don't want to let North Korea win, you need to upgrade your damn browser as soon as the update's available. And if you're using like a Chrome-derived browser, just keep an eye on those things and make sure you keep that up to date. Because there aren't really that many ways somebody can get access to the bits on your computer. Except when you do things like read email and you go out and get content and bring it in. That's the easiest way. So you've got to keep your email stuff and your browser as patched as possible to make sure. And you need to be very, very careful about
those
where
patches
you go with these things.
Those patches are often vulnerability fixes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see.
It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
So speaking of tech, Europe has finally decided to take a stab at social media companies and big tech companies. Have you guys heard about this?
No.
The European Digital Markets Act. Well, late Thursday evening, European lawmakers agreed on aggressive new rules that aim to crowbar open the app marketplace to let in smaller competitors. The DMA, which is expected to be enforced before the end of this year, will require companies like Apple, Facebook's parent Meta, and Google to let their services intertwine with those of rivals. According to members of the European Parliament, this means Apple will be made to allow iPhone users to download apps from rival app stores, and WhatsApp will have to let people use its app to communicate with other using rival messengers. If they don't, they could face fines up to 20% of their global turnover, and the European Commission will also be able to impose a ban on mergers. So I know this has probably got a few of your noggins jogging, Skep.
Jesus.
Because I have many comments, but I'd actually like to hear what you think about this. What's your first impression, since you haven't, read about this?
Yeah, I hadn't really looked at this. Okay, so if America's antitrust motto is break up big tech, Europe now has its own variation. Don't break them up, break them open. There is so much wrong with that sentence. I can't even begin to tell you. First of all, governments should be keeping their mitts off of corporations and the business world as much as they can. That's the miracle. That's the nuclear engine of the economy that keeps things going. If they want to break them open, as they say, and begin to force them to, all right, what I'm trying to say is that a government directed program to enforce cooperation and compatibility and cross pollination of applications is never going to be anywhere as good for the consumer as what naturally occurs in the marketplace without government intervention.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a principle. That's the way things work. Government cannot foresee all the things that will happen as a result of the rules that they put down. So when they put down a law which will last forever, when was the last law you ever saw go away? Mm-hmm. That law will last forever, despite the fact that the market is very fluid and will change. Its needs will change, but it still has to conform to this outmoded law. This law that doesn't even make any sense anymore, but just ends up costing the company's money that they will pass on to the consumer. And so the government says, well, we got that. We'll regulate how much they're allowed to charge the consumer for. And so, and eventually, the companies are hurt to the point where they start having to depend on government handouts to survive, and they become quasi-governmental departments. This is so fucked up, I can't even say.
Well, before I say lots of $20 words, Functional, do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, that first sentence also really kind of made me go, huh? Because the break up a big tech quote was a talking point for a potential solution to the problems with things like the monopolies, perceived monopolies that are going on with things like big tech. When in fact, most people who know, who can know as little as next to nothing about the whole situation seem to favor, well, why don't they just follow the laws that we already have on the books and clearly define communications regulations for the internet? Like, for instance, if a supposed self-proclaimed platform is censoring and acting in actuality as a publisher, then they have to follow the rules of, say, a publisher versus platform kind of thing. That's going a little bit more into the nitty gritty of what most people just want them to follow the laws that are basically on the books. They just don't directly reference big tech type stuff.
Well, let me take this in two pieces, okay? Because this clearly has to do with more things than just the two things they're talking about. But they mentioned two things explicitly. One are messaging apps, and the other are app stores, right? So let's take the messaging apps first. It's entirely possible, and it happens frequently in other things that aren't Apple and Google, that messaging apps of different types are federated, meaning you can set up some kind of messaging service, and then the users of that service have a means by which they can send a message to users of another service. You know, much like if you have Rogers, as your cell phone company, you can send a text message to my phone, you know, if I'm using AT&T or Verizon or one of the customers here. Mm-hmm. There's a means by which you can send an SMS message between different carriers. And that sort of thing is probably pretty darn good for the consumer. However, what you find, though, is if the different services have different levels of technical capability, meaning there are features that work, you know, in Apple Messenger and Google Messenger, and those features don't overlap, you end up with something where you become a second-class participant when dealing with people outside of your network. Okay, that's just a statement of fact. That's just the way things sort of work. You know, you could make the argument that this is a good thing or a bad thing, you know, based on what I just said. You know, loss of capability, federated, fine. I don't really care about this one as much. But it does allow a smaller carrier to come up with a competing standard and not essentially be in a position where none of their users can access 99% of the people that are there. So it does lower one of the barriers to entry. And realistically, it doesn't really cost the big companies that much. Okay. Trust me, I'm being as agnostic about this as possible, as neutral as I can possibly be. Now, the App Store thing is a little more complicated because we rely on these companies to help us protect our devices, right? So when you go to the Google Play Store and you download something, you have an expectation that it's not going to be crap that's full of malware, right? And so part of what they've done is they've created this monopoly where they hold the keys to the walled garden in which apps live. And in return, they take a cut of the revenue from the apps, like around 30%. Depends on the market and the size of the publisher. It's a different conversation, but it's like 30%. So if you want to sell something as an app to iPhone users or Google users, you got to pay Apple or Google. And unless you're willing to go by their rules, you cannot sell apps for those phones. So what they get is they get like this special monopoly power that lets them make tons of money. But what they give you in return is some level of vetting that the apps that you're getting aren't going to be dangerous to your device in some way, make it not work properly or worse, right? So as the consumer, should you be able to choose to load apps from other services? And this legislation makes it so that they have to give you that option. Again, I'm not advocating for or against. I'm being very, very neutral on this sort of thing. So you understand what these things are. What do you guys think?
I think if you have a problem with using the Apple App Store, then maybe you can try a non-Apple product. Like, I mean, there's options. It's not like it's a full monopoly. I mean, on the Android platform, yes, there is the Google Play Store, but I can download apps from other sources. It's not like it's locked.
Well, unless you jailbreak your phone, not jailbreak, but basically rootkit your phone, or sideload it using ADB.
ADB, right.
You actually can't do that for most people. You have to put it into a special mode, like a developer mode, where you can bring in things like some of the Android repositories. Most users are not technically savvy enough to do something like that. The majority of users, and I don't think I'm being that unfair. I'd say that easily 95% of users have no means by which to load any sort of app on their Google or Android phone that isn't from Google or Android.
Well, I mean,
everyone is equal, Harry.
I will still go to the Play Store because, like you said, the reasons you gave, it's endorsed by and guaranteed, quote unquote, guaranteed to be safe from undesirable backdoor software. But if it's something like a game that I want from, I barely even fucking use my phone. I'm trying to stretch here, trying to relate my PC knowledge because, obviously on PC I can do anything I want. If I don't want to use Windows, I don't have to use Windows. It's just, I don't know. I guess I just don't know enough about mobile to really use the analogy effectively.
Well, my personal opinion, since you guys have had a chance to talk, is that I think you absolutely should give people the option. But when they click that button, there needs to be some sort of thing saying, be careful that you actually know that you're taking responsibility for the sources of stuff you're downloading from. And things that, like on Android, if an app is identified as being a problem, they can disable the app on your phone for you. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on your perspective. The majority of sort of users who just want to use their phone, they just want it to work and not screw everything up, probably are somewhat sold on the idea that, Daddy Google is going to take care of my phone for me.
Yeah.
And if as soon as you click this button, Google will not be able to delete those things. But when you look at the political side of this, and you look at all the things that have been happening where, they say, oh, well, we can't have our alternative platform because our app has been banned from the Apple Store and the Google Store. This could be actually pretty great in terms of free speech because those apps could be back on people's phones who want to use them, and Google and Apple wouldn't be able to ban them.
Right.
So we actually kind of, as consumers, we actually kind of get something from this legislation.
Yeah. It's a weird dividend, isn't it?
Well, it also gives them not plausible deniability, but if someone starts to complain, they go, "We can't do anything. Hands are tied. Whoopsies."
Just remember when you're gloating over the dividend that Harry just eloquently described. Big tech will make counter moves.
Of course.
To anything that weakens their position in any way, shape, or form. I've never seen anything as touchy as Google is about the market weakening Google. They are really good at positioning themselves, and their lobbyists and the people who keep them aware of what the important pieces are in their world, in their immediate future, are probably peerless almost.
Yeah. And I'm sorry if this is dry and boring for people.
It's not dry and boring for me.
But this is kind of important, and I like to bring up stories where I actually know something that maybe other people in the monkey sphere don't know, and I can actually add something of value to the conversation. This is a thing I actually know a lot about. So
I wish
I won't make it super
I wish
long,
you would
though.
do 5 of these every stream. Seriously, Harry.
God, that would be a lot like work.
Yeah, well, it would be, and it wouldn't be fair to you, but you really do bring that to these streams. Some serious expertise without a shred of bullshit in areas like this. No fooling.
Hey, Skep, guess what I found in my freezer the other day?
Not a rat.
Oh, hold on. This is annoying. What are you doing?
Is this the remains of Nigel?
There we go. What the fuck is this? Okay, so I open my freezer door and see this thing, this ice penis growing out of my ice tray. Now,
What?
yeah, I do like big chunky ice cubes. I know I'm fancy. I can't help it. But yeah, this is what I was confronted with the other day when I opened my freezer door, and I'm like, excuse me?
And that's not something that fell in. That's the ice
No.
growing up.
It's ice growing up. And I had to think about this for a minute and go, okay, what in the hell is going on with this this thing?
Something's dripping on that.
No, that's not it at all.
I was thinking it was a stalagmite.
That was my first thought as well. And then I remembered that I've actually seen this on a much smaller scale on other ice cubes before. So I did some research to figure out what the hell causes these ice spikes.
The pressure in your...
Well, what are ice spikes? Ice spikes are odd ice structures that occasionally grow out of ice cube trays. Unlike some of the strange things you may find growing in your refrigerator, ice spikes are made of nothing but ice. Okay, that's great. The long story short is this diagram. What happens is the surface of the ice cube forms, and if there's a spot where there's still a hole in it where it hasn't covered over, as the water expands, it pushes up.
It was probably right under a light or something like that. It was just a little bit warmer.
No, it was just a random spot that didn't
really.
There's no, yeah. My freezer's not that fancy.
Yeah,
but yeah, it actually did this. Now
That's
created
cool.
that big, long, weird spike thing, which is kind of cool. But there are some strange things about the formation of these, and I should put this link in the chat. I don't think Geodes has this one. Has Geodes posted this link? Here, I'll post that one. Okay, so you guys can read up on this in your copious free time, but it actually matters. The temperature of the freezer and water with fewer impurities tends to do this a lot more. So that water is all reverse osmosis, not a lot of total dissolved solids. And I got like the enormous ice penis, because normally you just get these little tiny spiky things. I've seen these before, but I was just sort of confronted with one ice cube that seemed happy to see me, and it confused me, to be entirely honest.
I would have been more impressed if you had the ice ball maker.
Yeah.
And it had made the penis then I would be more impressed.
So,
I'm just saying, it would have been more impressive.
I'm actually going to go ahead and make a executive decision here. Since we actually have dropped several viewers, I'm going to save the next set of articles, the Smithsonian thing, for the next show, if that's okay.
I think that's a great idea.
And just go straight to penis news.
Do it.
Okay, let's see if I can find penis news. Okay, so sorry to bring you a little bit of Ukraine at the end of the thing, but Impacto de Missile Iskandar and Kiev.
Nice.
Oh boy.
Giggity!
I'm not quite sure.
How about fucking?
It's not very often that war does something funny, but I don't know. Looks like some kind of penis to me.
Looks like a dick.
Twig and berries.
Yeah.
How about? That's how you fuck your enemy.
Yeah. So, anybody have anything else before we say goodnight?
I have a quote.
Please.
There can be no justice as long as laws are absolute. Even life itself is an exercise in exceptions.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I will
Come on,
just
Skep, you gotta know.
No, I'm just gonna leave you with the old quote from Atlas Shrugged.
The card.
Ton Stoffel. There ain't any such thing as free lunch.
I've actually, to quote myself, because I am pretentious that way, I once tried to explain to somebody in a business situation, I said, you should probably keep this in mind, but sometimes things which are free cost entirely too much.
That's damn straight.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty expensive free things come your way. Oh, how about some free equipment? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that. Free equipment.
That's just a restatement of what I said.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's my corollary.
Yeah, your corollary. Yeah, the hairy corollary.
If it's free, you're the product.
All right, everybody.
Yeah, well said.
Serenity?
Yes.
Good night, Serenity.
Night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Zeus.
Bye.